Next up, we have Director Brooke Paup. She was appointed to the Texas Water Development Board by Greg Abbott on February 22nd, 2018. Prior to her appointment to the board, Paup served as the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Texas Comptroller of Public Accounts for the last 4 years. She has over 12 years of state government experience. She earned a Bachelor of Arts from Texas A&M University, and she also graduated from Texas Tech School of Law. So please join me in welcoming Director Brooke Paup.
Howdy, y'all. Okay, I always have issues with technology. It's like a running joke within the board, so let me make sure that this works. Okay, look at that. Wow. All right. Howdy, y'all. I'm Brooke Paup. I'm one of the board members of the Texas Water Development Board. I am thrilled to finally be in Amarillo. It's only taken 2 years for CE to actually invite me to come visit y'all. A little ticked about the 2-year gap, but I'm so happy to be here. Per statute, the Texas Water Development Board has to have an investment advisor, an engineer, and an attorney on the board. I am the attorney on the board, so I never get invited to anything, obviously, because it took 2 years for me to get invited to this. I make that joke almost every speech, and my chief of staff has finally said, "You got to retire it, Brooke. Like, it's not that funny anymore." But I think it's hilarious because it's the two things that Americans can agree on right now: attorneys and taxes. We just hate them both. And I've spent my career doing both of those, so I love to poke fun at myself. I'm also a blonde Aggie attorney, so I write my own jokes, basically. But anyways, I am thrilled to be here. Again, I'm a board member of the Texas Water Development Board, and our mission, the Water Development Board, is to provide leadership information, education, support for planning, financial assistance, and outreach for the conservation and responsible development of water for Texas, straight off the webpage. So what does that mean to me? So basically, my focus as a board member is to ensure that the state has the resources it needs to provide the water infrastructure to sustain our amazing growth that the state is developing. We are growing by over 1,000 citizens a day. 500 are natural born, 500 probably coming from California, so welcome. We love the tax money. But we can't support our continued growth without investing in our infrastructure. My mother, legend, icon, queen, Heidi Tomset, told me right before I went to A&M, "Brooke, buy your own flowers and buy your own drinks." And those two things are very true. And what she meant by that is if something means something to you, then you invest in it yourself. And that is what the state has done with water infrastructure. We know we can't support industry, we can't support our population, we can't support this Texas miracle without infrastructure in place. So that's where we come in, the Texas Water Development Board. We have 3 functional areas: science, planning, and finance. We say at the board that better data means better science, means better planning, which in turn helps us with the financing. Science is how much water, where is it, what's the quality? The planning, it's a bottoms-up approach. We have 16 regional water planning groups that work together and develop this incredible document called the State Water Plan that's put out every 5 years. I think the next one is due in 2022, and I am encouraged by how the regional water planning groups are working on it. And the financing, we fund projects. We fund water supply, wastewater. Now we're in the flood business, so we fund flood mitigation. And we are potentially the only entity in the world that links long-term water planning with incentive financing. The state of Texas is the gold standard in infrastructure funding. I'm very proud of it. So let's go into ag Water Conservation Program. I'm going to briefly go through two of our particular components of this program because I don't have a lot of time and I tend to run long. My nickname growing up was Babbling Brooke, and it's still pretty true, so I apologize. But I'm very proud to say that our agency has a very robust ag conservation program. Let's go into the grant program because that's what everyone really likes, the free money. Who doesn't like free money? So I am very happy to say that the Texas legislature saw what a great program the grant program was and the incredible benefits that it was bringing to the state of Texas, and they increased the amount of funding from $600,000 to $1.2 million a year. Political subdivisions and state agencies are eligible to apply. Producers are eligible to participate in projects. There is a local match. It's usually 50%. And the focus this year is improving soil health and promoting irrigation conservation. And happy Valentine's Day. The applications are due February 19th, so spend your Friday night with your sweetheart drafting up your grant application because they are due the following week. I know that's what everyone wants to do on Valentine's Day. Let's go into some of the categories. We have cost share of equipment, demonstrations, planning design, and irrigation system improvements. So let's go into cost share of equipment. A really fantastic example of that was the High Plains Water District Assistance in the AIM program to provide cost share to ag producers for irrigation control and monitoring systems. We've got a lot of High Plains people here, and I think it's been a huge success. Metering is probably my favorite way to use these grant funds. CE, I think, got a grant for metering, but it's really great because it provides the districts and ag producers with tools to make informed water decisions. But the great thing about metering is it also benefits my agency because it provides data that we can use in the regional water process. Demonstrations of innovative and alternative systems. We've been doing this a lot with citrus. Planning and design. Planning and design costs a lot of money. So this assists irrigation districts to develop the planning and design, construction plans, and get their projects shovel ready. And the big driver of this is to find projects that could potentially be included in the state water plan to potentially get SWIFT funds, which is our State Water Implementation Fund for Texas, the gold standard of infrastructure borrowing. So demonstration projects, AgriLife, best management practices in the lower Rio Grande Valley. I actually got to go down there and see some of the irrigation projects they were doing. Unfortunately, 2 days before I arrived, Texas floods all the time, but it rained 12 inches, so that kind of ruined the irrigation demonstration I was going to see, but I was happy to get out and see everyone. Let's see. Texas Tech University, my law school alma mater, best management practices in the Southern High Plains, and I got to go visit with our Lubbock friends three or 4 weeks ago. I was told last night that Lubbock isn't considered to be in the Panhandle. I don't know if I agree with that. No? 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 Okay. See, when I was at law school, everyone called it the Panhandle, but I guess I was not correctly informed. Nope. Okay. It's official. Not in the Panhandle. South Plains. Okay, thank you. See? I'm learning so much today. It's great. Oh, let's go back. So the great thing about the Texas Alliance for Water Conservation is they have a singular goal, and that is to maintain the Ogallala Aquifer. So they are working together as a partnership of area producers, data collections, industries, universities, government agencies, and it provides on-farm demonstrations of cropping and livestock systems because we want to maintain the Ogallala, but we also want to make sure that farming and ranching is robust in that area because that is the lifeblood of that area. South Plains, right? Okay, yes, got it. All right, let's talk flood. So, for over 50, 60 years, the Texas Water Development Board has been in the business of water supply. We have funded water infrastructure. That has been our main goal. We were established after the drought of record in the 1950s. The state of Texas, I always say government is highly reactive, but occasionally they come up with proactive and innovative solutions, and the Water Development Board was one of those innovative solutions. But we've had 60 years of water supply, and we are now in the flood business. Two major pieces of legislation passed this last session, SB 7, which creates two funds. We call it the money. It's the FIF and the TURF. The FIF is the Flood Infrastructure Fund, and that is what my agency is charged with implementing. And then there's the planning section, and that's SB 8. And that is Senator Perry and Senator Larson's idea of coming up with a state flood plan. So let's go into the money. So, SB 7. It's related to flood planning mitigation and funds infrastructure projects. Created two funds, the FIF and the TURF. The stated goal is to encourage the development of structural and non-structural flood mitigation. Structural examples are dams, levees, retention basins, stormwater management, flood walls, the expensive stuff. Non-structural examples, education campaigns, flood warning systems, land use regulations, which are not fun to develop. Buyouts of properties, again, touchy too. Restoration or construction of wetlands. So we recognize financial need within the statute, so the preference is for counties who have median income is lower than 85% of the state median income. So it's funded by appropriations, a total of $1.43 billion from the Economic Stabilization Fund, also known as our Rainy Day Fund, which is funny and aptly titled for the flood bills. The FIF is funded by almost $793 million, and that is what my agency is tasked with. We are looking at doing a possibility of mixing loans and grants. It's very interesting because flood is a different beast. Water supply revenues are going to come back to the state. With flood mitigation, it's just money out. So unless that flood project has some sort of water supply benefit, I don't know how popular the loans are going to be, but we'll see. We don't know what this universe is like yet. So I do see a lot of grants coming in. And at the December board meeting, we voted to allocate over $7 million from the FIF to provide the local match requirement for 26 projects. I'm really proud of that because this unlocked almost over $60 million in federal grant money. We can't afford to leave the federal money on the table. I know that federal funds come with lots of strings attached, and no one likes DC. I've lived there, worked there. It's one of my least favorite places on earth. But that is money that another state will get if we do not get it. So I was very proud to vote for that, to allocate that $7 million. Okay. So additional requirements. Subdivisions must act cooperatively with nearby political subdivisions. I call this the don't flood your neighbor requirement. If you're going to put up any sort of flood mitigation, you got to make sure that you're not going to flood upstream, downstream, the local church. Just don't flood your neighbor. We've received several comments asking us to consider potential water supply benefits to increase aquifer recharge that could result from nature-based flood mitigation projects. Super interesting. I can't wait. I hope we have a lot of those applications come in as well. I'm going to go through the TURF really fast because I'm running late. So the TURF is managed through TDEM. My purpose here is merely to give you a general sense of the fund, so I'm going to quickly go through it. There are 4 accounts in the TURF. Hurricane Harvey account. Obviously, this is going to fund projects that were hit hardest by Hurricane Harvey. Floodplain management account. This money in the account is going to be used for collecting and analyzing flood-related data. Again, let's touch base on data. You have to have data for the planning and the science. Otherwise, you don't know where to fund. So this is very important. Federal matching account. We can use these only to meet federal requirements. And this can be used for Army Corps projects, which is excellent for us. The flood implementation account. We can only use this money to fund projects in the state flood plan, which I'm about to touch on, much like the SWIFT with the state water plan. There's no money in it yet. Hopefully this next session they'll put some money in it, otherwise we're in trouble. This account will take center stage once the state flood plan is adopted in 2024. So we have an advisory committee because the ledge likes to spy on us. It's great. They met and we were tasked with making sure that we are working with GLO and TDEM to make sure the right projects are funded. Let's briefly go into statewide planning, SB 8. Okay. So, SB 8 is related to state and regional flood planning. My agency is tasked with preparing and adopting a comprehensive state flood plan by 2024, composed of several regional plans. It will be the guide to state and local flood control policy, and with a mandate to contribute to water supply wherever it's possible. So why is this such a heavy lift? Well, as I said before, we've been doing water supply for 60 years. We were tasked with the state water plan after the drought of record. We've had 60 years to get the state water plan done right, done correctly. And we've even changed the structure of the state planning process. It was initially a tops-down approach where the state told the 16 regions what projects they needed in their area, and we realized in 1997 that that was the wrong approach. It's really the regional water planning groups should be the ones telling us what they need. So we flipped it in 1997. So even that planning process changed. The ledge has given us basically 4 years to get a state flood plan done, and all eyes are on us. It's got to be done well, and it's got to be done correctly, and we've got to get the funds out fast. It's very intimidating because it's always going to flood, and someone's going to be blamed for it. And I guess my agency is now the one that gets to be blamed for flooding. But I'm joking because it's a very important project for the state. But it's intensely personal to me. We've had Hurricane Harvey hit. We had 60 inches fall over parts of Houston. But not only that, we've had the tax day floods. We've had Memorial Day floods, 1 and 2. We have had, I think, some Labor Day flooding. We've had the Wimberley floods. We've had the Onion Creek floods. The Onion Creek floods hit on October 31st, 2014. And my best friend in the world who worked with me, Governor Abbott, lives in Onion Creek. And she did not know that the creek was rising because the warning systems failed. And she barely escaped with her 2-year-old son on her shoulders. They were lucky to be alive. And then with the Wimberley floods, one of my dear friends that worked with me, Governor Abbott's office, lost her sister and her 3 nieces and nephews as they were trying to flee the floodwaters. This is important stuff, y'all. Like, the legislature figured enough was enough. Like, we actually have to put some money into funding flood mitigation, and it's time. It floods everywhere in the state of Texas, and we just kind of patchwork it. This is a concentrated effort to actually battle with flood. So I'm very, very humbled that they gave it to our agency, but I'm ready for it. So what's going to be included in the state flood plan? Evaluation of existing flood infrastructure, a ranked list of proposed flood control projects, an analysis of completed ongoing flood projects, the analysis of the development of the 100-year floodplain. That's a doozy, because that impacts just everything. Building, we've got to get everyone involved with that. Developers love that. Analysis, legislative recommendations. So we will designate flood planning regions that correspond with river basins. Obviously, a lot of these river basin areas are going to be very large, and we are allowing them to subdivide. We're going to provide financial and technical assistance, much like we do to the regional water planning groups, and they'll be the same interests that do the regional planning for the SWIFT. So the regional plans must use information based on hard science and updated mapping. Again, data, data, data. We have to describe existing flood infrastructure, describe changes in land use and population, and increases that could have effect on flooding. Don't flood your neighbor. Indicate whether a proposed project meets emergency need, uses federal funds, or has water supply benefits. The water supply benefits was a very big deal to Senator Perry. Obviously he is in the South Plains, and they are dry most of the time. So he really wants to make sure that we can find some sort of cooperative approach to flood mitigation and water supply. All right. Have to be transparent. Let's just go with that. So we have guidance principles that we published at our December board meeting with input from all of our sister agencies. Public comment period has recently closed. These guidance principles follow the text of SB 8 closely. All right, again, we have an advisory committee because they like to keep their eyes on us. All right, enough flood, let's talk new initiatives. See, how am I doing on time?
You got a little bit.
A little bit? Oh, okay. All right, we have some new initiatives. Look at that amazing triangle. I mean, we're just doing great on our graphics, aren't we? This is called the SRF trifecta. Trying hard for Texas water. I mean, you can't get better than that, guys. That's our AMPS, Secure and Safe Water Initiative, and CPA to go. These are all going to work with our state revolving funds. Let's talk about AMPS. So this is Kathleen Jackson's brainchild. You all know Kathleen Jackson. She is the road warrior. She is the queen of Texas water. I love her. She's amazing. But we have found that just giving grants or loans to small communities doesn't mean that they have everything they need. Oftentimes, we provide loans, we provide grants. They have incredible infrastructure that they build in place, but they don't know how to maintain it. And that is a problem. It's a problem because a $5,000 problem can become a $50,000 problem within weeks if you don't know how to maintain your assets. So this helps small utilities in operating proactively so they know how to use their equipment. They are asked to come up with an asset management plan, but we contract with qualified entities to evaluate their water systems and create asset management plans for these small entities. They can borrow up to $75,000 now for these asset management plans. And they were so successful in this last round that we have opened it up to larger entities too. So our initial round funded $450,000, 6 small systems, and we're opening it up because it's been so successful. Let's see. Our pilot initiative had 6 initial participants, and I think that we're going to have 6 more coming up soon. Okay, CPA to go. This is a great one. So we have found that there are small communities that don't have great financials. The mayor's wife happens to be the secretary, and she prepares all the audits, and nothing's right, and they can't come to the board and get a loan or grant if they don't have auditable financials, and because we have to be stewards of the taxpayer money. So we have partnered with, I want to say, 4 to 6 CPA firms that will go out to these entities that would like to be customers of the board, but just need some additional help get their financials in order. It's a great risk mitigation tool because once they have good financials, then that just kind of opens up the world to these areas. Let's see. And Secure and Safe Water Initiative. So the EPA had a strategic goal of reducing the number of systems with health violations. TCEQ provided a list last April to us. 261 public water systems in Texas were on that list. That's unacceptable to us. It's unacceptable to me. So we decided that we were going to provide targeted assistance to these 261 communities and help just right their ship. Try to figure out, why are you on this list? What can we do to get you off this list? How can we encourage a better use of your equipment? What else can we do? This is really a reallocation of tools that we've used for many years, but it's a targeted, focused approach, and we're very, very proud of it. We made our first commitment to Commodore Cove Improvement District in the December board meeting. They got almost $300,000 of principal forgiveness as a very small system. They replaced a tank and a water line that didn't meet TCEQ standards, and they're off that list now, y'all, and I think that's great. So we have 260 that we're looking at. I think that we have one that is on the list for the board meeting that is tomorrow, so 259. And we're just gonna chip away at them, because every community deserves safe and clean water. Program updates. I'm going fast, I promise. SWIFT. We just closed on our bridge applications. I believe we had 10 that we have approved. I'm not quite sure what that total is, but I think it might be close to $1.2 billion in this next cycle. On the 24th of September, we provided almost $1 billion, saved those borrowers $170 million, which brings the savings for the state of Texas and local entities to almost $1 billion. There's no better deal in the open market. If you have a project in the state water plan, come to us for SWIFT funds. You'll get an incredible deal, incredible financial deal, but you also get 330 of some of the smartest, most educated state employees that will hold your hand throughout the entire process and provide all of their incredible assistance. You also get 3 board members, including a blonde Aggie attorney, if you need one. So, there we go. So, abridged applications were due. We received 10 applications. Lake Ralph Hall was in one of those. That's amazing. And Upper Trinity Regional Water District is one of those applications. They finally received their 404 permit. We didn't believe it would actually happen, so they took pictures of them signing the permit so we actually would see the evidence, because, you know, working with the feds, it's always great. All right, that is, okay. Last one, 5th. We had a special board meeting January 30th. We invited anyone who wanted to provide oral testimony to the board. We had a lot of people come and express their opinions about how the funds should be used. Everyone has opinions, and we were very happy to hear that. We adopt the final rules in March 2020. We adopt the final rules for flood planning in April 2020, and that's tentative. We truly do want your feedback on the flood rules. So if you have something to say, or if you have draft comments but you didn't get them in on time, send it to me, because I still want to read them. We can't do flood mitigation properly without stakeholder involvement. And I think that's about it. Am I on time or late? Are we good? Yeah? All right, any questions? The 5th has funding. The 5th has $793 million. What we don't have funding yet is for the state flood plan projects, like the new version of SWIFT. So we have the account set up, and within this next legislative session, they'll probably throw some seed money in it. We don't know yet. We are approving the rules in April. So if you have, again, would love to hear all your opinions. I will tell you that the need for grants has been heard loud and clear. The need for grants fast has been heard loud and clear. So, any other questions? Yes? So are you interested Well, anything to do with ag, we're definitely. Okay. Sure. Well, I believe we're partnering with the Department of Agriculture to look at that and do some sort of study on that, what that actually means as far as like water supply. So stay tuned. Any others? I can tap dance. I'm up here. Razzle dazzle. All right. Thanks, y'all.